if that's not the biggest slap in the face evidence of this whole case, I don't know what is. Hi guys, my name is Megan. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, apparently I do true crime now, which I'm so excited for, because the fact that my video, my last video is probably my most liked video and my most watched video, and I really didn't expect much, because when I made, it was like a commentary video about the Glee project, I didn't get that many views and likes, and I was like, you know what, it's fine. Most people don't know what the Glee project is or was, so I was like, I'm not hurt by it. But I'm really appreciative of the response I've been getting on my last video, and I'm super excited to continue filming more videos about true crime and other things that I'm into, because like I said in my last video, that's what I go to YouTube for, and that's what I want to bring to YouTube. I still don't know what the series is going to be called. If anyone has any recommendations, please leave them in the comment section below, because I don't know, and I don't want to do murder, mystery, and makeup Monday, because I'm not Balisarian, even though I wish I was. I got a Heyday microphone from Target. It was $30. It took a little bit to figure it out. Literally, easiest thing, at least for MacBook users, not sure about PC users, but if you have a MacBook and you got this microphone, download Audio Recorder. It's probably the first thing that shows up when you look it up on the App Store. Download it, it records the audio, it saves it, and you know, if you're like me, you're just going to put it with the video that I'm already recording. But yeah, so I hope that helped anyone, because I was struggling myself for like 3 weeks trying to figure this out. Today's video, sorry, I feel like I'm really upbeat. I'm just overwhelmed by the reception of my last video, which makes me really happy, because I feel like I did something right, and it's just like, it's rewarding to know that people did find it interesting and did like it and did enjoy the case. But this is a true crime video, so I just want to put a discretion on this video that I am going to be talking about murder. I am going to be talking about a true crime case that probably makes a lot of people upset, because the people who were the prime suspects were acquitted, and it's just a lot. But I really wanted to talk about the Meredith Kercher case, aka Amanda Knox. If you don't know who Amanda Knox is, you're probably living under a rock. I feel like when I grew up, I heard about 2 women growing up with their cases, and that was Casey Anthony and it was Amanda Knox. And I will talk about Casey Anthony because I have a lot to say. I would love to do a video on that. But Amanda Knox, when I went to watch her documentary the first time it came out, I think I always had the mentality that if you have a true crime documentary, that you're guilty, or that there was great evidence there that presented that you were the guilty party. But to my surprise, when I actually watched and learned about the case for the first time from her perspective, and the police commissioner who did work the case, and like the media people who were involved in the case, it was very interesting, because I personally think she did not do it. I think that she was falsely accused, but we are going to get into that in the details. I just want to preference this. I have been listening to a lot of podcasts. I was on vacation last weekend, so I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and she has gone on several after the trial and after everything that happened, which I will get into, but she has been on several podcasts talking about her time, talking about the case, talking about everything. And I really think that she was falsely accused, and I think that what she's doing now is amazing, and we're going to talk about that as well. So this is the Meredith Kercher case and the Amanda Knox trial. So let's get into the video. So I will try to explain what I am using on my face. So Amanda Knox was born on July 9th, 1987 in Seattle, Washington. Her mother was a math teacher, I believe in elementary school, and her father was a vice president of finance at Macy's. She also had a younger sister and 2 stepsisters, after her parents got divorced when she was a child. I believe she was like 2 or 3 when her parents got divorced. So she grew up in a fairly middle-class neighborhood in Seattle. She played sports, she played soccer, and this was around the time when this started, when MySpace came out. That's going to come into play. But when she was growing up and playing soccer, she earned a nickname, and it was Foxy Knoxy. According to her parents, it would come back to haunt her years later, which, yes, it does. When she was 15, she traveled to Italy with her parents on a vacation, and she said that she fell in love with Italy and the atmosphere. Growing up, her parents, I believe her mother was German. She did speak German, and I believe she spoke another language as well, but she wanted to challenge herself and learn Italian and go to Italy, and that's how she wanted her life to be. She was finally like expanding her knowledge of the world, and she just wanted to travel, and she picked Italy for a study abroad program when she was 20 years old. Before she traveled to Italy, her parents noted that she was never like a wild child. She played sports and she had friends, but she wasn't in the popular crowd. And her mother did say in an interview, like, if she wanted to, she could have, but she didn't, because she felt like she, not an outsider, but she just felt like she was a little, I use the word quirky loosely, but she just felt like, you know, she didn't like she was just like chilling. She liked Harry Potter books. I know she got into Star Wars later in life. I don't know if that was before this or after. She always liked, I think she said X-Files on one of the podcasts. But she traveled to Perugia, Italy. When she was there, I know she was working. She got a job with a see these names? I'm gonna butcher because yeah, I might just say their first names. It was Patrick La Bamba. It was at a pub. It was called Le Chic, and she worked there part-time. And she stated in her documentary that, like, being in America, she was just pretty, and being in Italy and being the American blonde girl, like, she was like, can you hear that? Sorry. She was like the life of the party. Like, everybody wanted to know her. So she brought in a lot of business, which was very good for him. But while working there, she had 3 roommates. Her roommate, Meredith Kercher, was 21 years old. She was a student from London, and they're both studying logistics, if I'm correct, or linguistics, sorry. Like, it was like a little house in the valley, and I believe it was like downstairs there was 2 people, and then they were on the upper floor, or maybe it was like split in half, like a twin house, and like they were on one side, the people were on the other side. But yeah, it was stated there was like 4 people living in that house, but I think they were split apart. But Meredith was her roommate, so that is duly noted. Meredith, growing up, was always seen as like not the life of the party. She was like, her sisters always said, like, you fell in love with Meredith. Like, there was no way that you could avoid it. Like, she was just instantly, people loved her, they appreciated her, and yeah, so they hung out, they went out together, they were pretty friendly with each other, and one night they went to a concert at a classical music hall, and Amanda actually ended up meeting a boy named Raphael. So Raphael and her kind of hit it off. I guess they immediately started dating, or it was like, he says it was like love at first sight. Like, she was this beautiful American girl, and like, how could I not fall in love with her? And like, he remembered, like, he was stating that in the documentary that like he was staring at her from across the room and she was staring at him, but neither of them like wanted to make the first move. And then he went up to her and was like, why are we not talking? We're just staring. And I guess that's how it went. So they met and they began dating like right away. I just want to note that they were only with each other for 5 days before everything went down, which I'm just saying, if I'm just meeting someone and dating someone for 5 days and I get pulled into this, I would I would run for the hills. I would be like, what the hell is going on? On November 1st, 2007, Knox was supposed to work, but Patrick texted her, and this text comes into play later on. He said, like, we don't need you, we'll be fine for tonight, I'll see you later. Like, and this text, I'll bring it back up, but that's basically the gist of what it said. It wasn't like, and the see you later meant like, I'll see you another day, according to Amanda and him as well. But so she decided to go to Raphael's for the night. Huddled, I guess they made dinner, did what normal couples do. They're both stated saying this, that they were like making funny faces at each other, playing all night, ended up having sex and going to sleep. So that's how their alibi goes. That's what happened according to Amanda the night of Meredith Kercher's murder. This morning, Amanda wakes up, and I guess she wanted to go home and shower at her own place, and, you know, she was like to Raphael, she was like, oh, I'll be back later, like, you know, nothing normal. She gets home, and she walks home, which it said that the walk was only, like, I believe 5 minutes, and it was not unusual for her to walk. And one thing I do want to state out, people said that, like, this is a nice house and it's in the valley, but people, like, I mean, in Italy, this is considered, where they were living was considered a bad neighborhood. It says that the bad neighborhood includes, like, drug dealers walking around, and, like, there was, like, basketball courts nearby, and, like, they played basketball there, I guess. So, next day after going home on November 1st, and she went home, and she walked, and she comes to the door, and the door is wide open. But according to her, this wasn't alarming, or it wasn't unusual, because I guess they left the door unlocked a lot, or maybe they did leave it open a lot, which isn't a smart idea. Sorry, I'm getting out of focus. But, it wasn't unusual for this to happen, so no alarms started going off. Then Amanda went to the bathroom to, like, brush her teeth and stuff, and it was stated that there was little droplets of blood on the sink, but I'll show pictures of it. Like, she said this didn't ring any bells to her or any alarms, just because, okay, I'm focused. Just because, like, people cut themselves with shaving, like, it could have been from Meredith brushing her teeth, maybe her gums were bleeding, like, she wasn't alarmed by this at all, and, like, it didn't raise any red flags. She goes in the shower, she showers, whatever, she gets out of the shower, and as she steps onto the bath mat, she sees, like, a bloody footprint, and in a lot of every article talking about this, they explain, like, this footprint, and, like, I'm thinking in my head, like, oh, it's like a clear as day bloody footprint, and, like, it wasn't. I'll show a picture, but, like, when I first saw it, I was like, I could see where Amanda was coming from if she thought that Meredith had cut herself and it was bleeding onto her foot, because that makes sense. Obviously, girls shave their legs, She sees this, and to her, it wasn't ringing bells, but you know what did start ringing bells? When she looked over after all this and looked in the toilet, and there was a feces in the toilet. This is what set off alarms for Amanda, because I think she stated before that, like, Meredith had a talk with her or something about, like, being being a little bit more clean, and, like, making sure to flush the toilet, I guess. I don't know. So when she saw this, she was like, everything is just, something's not adding up. So I think she ended up calling Raphael and asking him to come over, because she said she felt like something was off. He said in the interview, he said, I don't know why the blood and stuff didn't set off more alarms in Amanda's head, and, like, why she didn't have more anxiety about stuff being in the house like that. Raphael showed up, and she went to Meredith's room, and the door was locked, which she claims was unusual, and she was knocking, and was like, hey Meredith, like I'm home, like come out, like say hello, like something like that. And there was no response. So this really worried Amanda, and she ended up asking Raphael to break the door down, which he was unable to do. Raphael calls the police after this. They have like different police forces there, so like they have like the common police, I guess, for like small crimes or something. So they were the ones that responded first because they didn't think anything of it. They were just like, something's weird, like something's off. And so they ended up coming out, and they asked Raphael and Amanda to sit outside while they broke the door down. This is a part I want to state, or according to Amanda, one of the biggest takeaways from the media was that Amanda and Raphael were sitting outside, like comforting each other, like kissing, all this stuff, during the police being in the house, searching the house, doing all this. And she said that she didn't know that Meredith was dead yet. Like, they didn't know. They were just standing outside. So I'm not sure if that's true or if that's false, but that was the infamous video. So once the police broke down the door and got into Meredith's room, they discovered Meredith's body naked. It was covered, which again, this will all come into play later. Her body was covered with the blanket, and she was dead, and she was pronounced dead. And Amanda says that, like, the way the police told her that she was dead was it was just like, oh, like, you know, she's gone. Like it was like nonchalant, and it was like kind of out of nowhere. So this surprised Amanda, and she didn't know how to respond. And she describes that she didn't really emotionally respond until a few days later, which is respectable. I understand. It's traumatizing. It's hard to process all the emotions. But after this, her and Raphael were taken to the police station, and first they weren't suspects. They were not hit list, anything. But then as investigators began investigating, I don't know how it came about, but it was announced that this whole thing was like a sex game gone wrong. When they were taken to the police station, at first they were just being questioned like normal, like, where were you? What do you think happened? Does Meredith have any enemies? Things like that. But then I guess later down the line, the police were just like, we know you did it. Like, just tell us. Like, just tell us. Like, tell us. Tell us right now. Amanda says that her and Raphael were, like, bullied into giving information. Amanda was giving wrong information because she was forced to give something, and they were abusing her emotionally and physically. They, like, smacked her over the head a few times, and all of this. And also, she's in a foreign country. They're not understanding her language. There was a language barrier. I'm not going to say the words. I don't want to get demonetized. But it was like she said the F word, and the one police officer responded was like, oh, I know that word, like F-U. And like, that's like, they were just like literally like agonizing her to like give us information. They're doing the same thing to Raphael too, which I just want to point out that Raphael seems a little bit sus to me. Like, I feel like I always hear about Amanda and, like, not really his side. But, like, some things he does, like, I mean, they were dating for 5 days. You know nothing about the guy. Like, let's be real here. Like, we don't know who he is. But, he was, like, to the police, he was like, Amanda could have left my house. I don't know if she was sleeping there. Like, she could have left and came back. Like, I didn't do anything though, which is sleazy. It's sleazy, and I don't like it. Trying to get any information that they can for the Kercher family, because obviously they're in distress. They just lost their daughter, and this poor girl is dead for absolutely no reason. And they're like beating, they're like, I don't want to say like they were beating the shit out of Amanda, like they were like hitting her over the head, things like that. They asked Amanda for her phone, and they pull up the text message between her and Patrick La Bamba, that said like, don't come into work, we're good, see you later. And I guess the translation in Italy means something more like, they were like, no, this means like, he'll see you later tonight, like you went and you saw him. So they're like terrorizing her. They were like, give us a name, we want a name. And she said, fine, Patrick. That's the only name that came to her head. That's what they wanted to hear, so they said Patrick. She said Patrick. That she like, I guess she thought that she was so traumatized that she was involved with it, that she kind of like blocked it out, and like she was like, I remember her screams or something. I don't know, but like she said like she think it was like a mental block, like she was involved and she blocked it out. But this wasn't true, because she was being sleep deprived, all this stuff, for 5 days, being interrogated by police. So again, this is why she gave Patrick's name, and she was like, I remember standing next to him over Meredith or something like that, which never actually happened. So on November 6, 2007, the police had announced that they had found Meredith's killers. It was Raphael. Well, they announced that it was Raphael, it was Amanda, and it was Patrick. They were arrested, obviously. But La Bamba, Patrick, had an alibi, because guess what? He was at work. He was at work, and there was like a number of employees and people that backed him up as witnesses, saying like, he was at work, he did not leave, he was there all night. So after all this, there was so much evidence that was obviously recorded and picked up, so the police were going through all this. I just want to preference that like they point out a lot, but like obviously Italian police is different from the police in America and how they do forensic stuff and cleanup stuff. So they said that most of the DNA was like bad or something, but I forget how much evidence they had, but they had a lot of evidence, or just like stuff that they picked up. So when they took it to the forensic lab, the evidence didn't point to Amanda or Raphael. So it pointed to Rudy Gede, and also it was his feces that was in the toilet, which I just want to point out. If that's not the biggest slap in the face evidence of this whole case, I don't know what is. Obviously 2 people lived in that apartment, Amanda and Meredith. Amanda was dating Raphael, so all of this, they said all of this DNA, like it could have been anything, like a piece of hair, anything. It was all in this house, so that was there. But then why is this guy's evidence everywhere? He was apparently like, I guess, a small-time drug dealer. He was arrested for several burglaries, stuff like that. Didn't have any convictions on his record, but he immediately, so literally the night after this, after he, well, this was his side of the story. So he said that him and Meredith actually like had like a consensual relations, and he went to the bathroom to go poop. And he came out, and there was like 3 men fight, or he heard Meredith screaming, and he said that like there was like 3 guys that were over Meredith's body, and he dipped. But he didn't dip to his house or call the police or anything. He dipped to Germany. He fled the country because he was like, yeah, that he was like, it traumatized me, so I had to leave. But he said his biggest regret was not calling the police after this. But that was his alibi. But he claims, I didn't kill Meredith, and he said that Amanda and Raphael were not involved. So that alone should have been fine. His DNA was found, like, I'm pretty sure all over everything. It was all over Meredith. It was all over her body, because clearly he was the one who sexually assaulted her and all this. Oh wow, I did not mean to pick that color. So he basically, when he got arrested, he went through like a fast track trial because he like admitted guilt, or like he gave the officers all the information that they wanted off the bat. And he was only sentenced to in October of 2008, he was found guilty of the murder and sexual assault of Meredith, but he was sentenced to 30 years in prison, which I know got knocked down, and he's already out. He's already out on the streets. Just saying. Raphael and Amanda were tried together, and it was the prosecutor, Giuliano McGinney, I'm probably saying that wrong, but he was the lead investigator or whatever, but he was the one who made like the whole, like he came up with the, like, this was a sex game gone wrong, like Meredith and Amanda and Raphael and Giddy like all like ganged up against Meredith. This whole thing, I don't know if it was before they already suspected Amanda or after, so they asked Amanda, like, it had to be after she was a suspect. So they asked Amanda, they were like, where's the murder weapon? Like, where is it? Like, you don't have track on the knives in your house, which also was technically an Airbnb to her. I'm like, who the hell is gonna have track on all the knives that was in the house that you're renting out? So she's like, where's the knife? And then they went and they looked in Raphael's apartment for evidence, and they came across a knife, and they said that the handle had Amanda's DNA on it, and the blade had Meredith's DNA on it. So obviously Amanda was like, you know, I use this for cooking. I cooked there before. We cooked dinner the night before, like things like that. But she said that she has no idea how Meredith's DNA got on the blade. And I just want to point out this article, it came out in 2007, and it's by Nick Pisa, and Nick Pisa worked for the Daily Mail, and no offense, Daily Mail is not a reliable news source, don't ever think it is, and he was the piece of shit who wrote all these articles and just immediately put out blame, put out the sex game stuff, all that, came up with Foxy Noxy for the news, but he said that Raphael, well, now I don't believe this, now I'm learning it, but it was linked in like the rundown of the case. It said that like Raphael accidentally nicked Meredith the night before, like not the night of the murder, but like a time before with the knife, so that might be why the DNA is on it, which doesn't make sense. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because the knife is like a big thing. Yeah, that's how this whole thing was, and it was like it was all Amanda. Amanda was like the key factor. Like she came up with the idea. She wanted to do the sex game, like all her, and like that was the prosecutor's like defense and everything. That's like what they really used. Like her thing was on, her DNA was on the blade of it. But also this was, so all of this was found before the end of November, which honestly, a fast case if you tell me. Like I mean, just in normal cases, I feel like everything's dragged out a lot longer. Like this evidence and all of this is coming out a lot, like quickly, very quickly. And it's like, oh my god, like they arrested Giddy and he's already in jail. Like that's it. Like, okay, so all this is happening and the media is having a frenzy, and again, I just want to point out, like, they just really went into Amanda. Foxy Noxy became a thing of horror instead of a joke, as her, like, younger school friends would call her, and it was on her MySpace. They also used pictures. They used a picture of Amanda like visiting a war museum and like standing behind a machine gun being like, ah, and they were like, oh my god, she's this crazy evil person. And they also did the same thing for Raphael, as he was dressed up as a mummy on Halloween, and it was like he was holding a meat cleaver. They were like, these two were like destined to be killers, like something like that. It was just, it was a lot of wrong evidence. It wasn't really clear, it wasn't good, it wasn't concrete. So it's just, the media had a frenzy, and you know, everyone in Italy hated Amanda. Like everyone saw her as this she-devil,
sexually driven woman. And it was pointed out that like she had sex with like 7 other guys before, well, including Raphael, and like she was 20 turning 21, and like that would be like me having everything put on blast for the public. Like it's just like her dad read that. Like who wants their father to know like how many people exactly, like, you know, like I think it was very abusive and it was very wrong. And Nick Pisa shit, he is like the main one. Like I said before, he wrote for the Daily Mail, he was in journalism, he is in the documentary, he's a piece of shit. And he was like, I really think that it's just the police to blame for doing like a botched interrogation and stuff like that. Like he was like, the media didn't do anything to them. My boy, you terrorized her. But bra clasp, Meredith's bra clasp was found 46 days after the initial sweep of the house. 46 days. I just want everyone to know that number. That is a long time. Everything. How did you not find it the first time? Apparently it was like under the couch, but it's just like, if you're doing a sweep and you're doing like if you want to try to find the evidence or whatever, like why wouldn't you find that? Raphael's DNA was found on this bra clasp. So yes, January 16th, 2009 is when the trial begins for Amanda and Raphael. But she said that the night before, her and Raphael were in his apartment, they smoked weed, they made love, that's it, they fell asleep. So that was what happened to her. That was her story. And then Geedy in November 18, 2009, the one who was already arrested and, you know, the one whose feces was in the toilet, he placed her at the crime scene like all of a sudden, and it was just very confusing when you already said like Raphael and Amanda had no involvement. Like why are you gonna believe him all of a sudden, just like coming out with it now? Like it just kind of seems like a deal was made there, because his sentence was reduced to 16 years after this. Again, he's already out. December 4th, 2009, Amanda and Raphael were convicted of, I don't know if it was first degree murder? Yeah, they were convicted of murder and sentenced. Raphael was sentenced to 26 years and Amanda was sentenced to, Amanda was sentenced to 26 and Raphael was sentenced to 25 years, and they both additionally had to pay like $7 million to the Kercher family, and Knox ordered Amanda was ordered to pay $60,000 for defamation against Patrick LaBamba. June 27, 2011, the appeal process begins. So obviously, if you know how the court system works out, you can appeal your sentence, which they did. They testified that the knife used in the attack carried no trace of blood. There was no DNA on the bra clasp, and police, like, they can't use this evidence when it's not substantial. Like, the forensic team basically explained that like DNA is everywhere. Like I touch my camera, my DNA is all over that. I touch this, my DNA is all over that. My boyfriend comes in, touches this one time, there's DNA on that. So like everything, like it could be a hair, it could be spit, everything. October 3rd, 2011, their convictions were overturned, which I just want to point out did not go well with the people of Italy. They hated Amanda, they hated everything. Yeah, they were not happy about this, but Amanda had actually delivered a very tearful statement in Italy before her conviction was overturned, and she did it in Italian, and I guess by the emotion the jury really felt for her and they overturned the convictions. March 26, 2003, Italy's highest court orders a new trial. So the case reopens, overturning the acquittal of Amanda and and Raphael. And Amanda had already returned to Washington, or Seattle, Washington, and she was set to release a book discussing how everything went down and how she experienced it and like what really happened, you know. I believe they did another look into the evidence and like what they had for DNA, and when they redid it, they found that there was no blood from Meredith on the knife. That was the whole thing. They found no like real evidence. Like they said again that Amanda used it for obviously cooking matters, like people cook with knives, they cut things, you know. And somehow it was the decision, they were guilty once again. And just I wanted to point out, Amanda, once she left the country and returned home, she like did not want to come back to Italy. Like she did her best to not have to go back to the country, and I believe she stayed on like house arrest at home while the proceedings were going on, and she was petrified of going back to Italy. And Raphael, I believe he was at home as well, but his passport was confiscated, and yeah, she just didn't want to go back to prison, which I don't blame her. I've never been to prison and I don't really want to go. They were found guilty again, and again the same sentences. She was Knox, Amanda was convicted of slander this time as well, so she got sentenced to 28 years in prison, and Raphael got sentenced to 25 years. And she said, "I am frightened and saddened by this unjust verdict, having been found innocent before, and I expected better from the Italian justice system. The evidence and the accusatory theory does not justify the verdict of guilt beyond reasonable doubt." 14, that they were reconvicted of murder. And by March 27th, 2015, the convictions were overturned once again. So it ended the whole charade of this case against Amanda and Raphael. And I am going to put in the little bit of video where Amanda is overjoyed by having to be done with this case.
I'm so grateful to have my life back. Thank you. And that's all I can say. Right now I'm still absorbing what all of this means, and what comes to mind is my gratitude for the life that's been given to me.
He calls Raphael and is like, we're done, I'm so happy for you, you're happy for me. Like Lee was ordered to pay like damages and stuff to Amanda, and she has further come out talking about everything. And I wanted to point out that in the one, I forget, I'll link both the podcasts that I watched or listened to, and in the one, like, she breaks down like talking about it, and she was like, you know, it didn't hit me until I was in that room that I was like, Meredith's dead in our apartment, and I could have been there, and I could have been dead. And I really think that's what stands out. She said that traumatized her, and being like, Meredith's dead. Like, this young girl I lived with in this house is dead. And like, she just kind of came overwhelmed with emotion. And she was in the police station when this happened, and they were like, she's realizing that she killed her. And she was like, I was having a panic attack. Like, you know, like, it was things like that. She points out how she talks a lot about her mental health, and especially being in an Italian prison. Like, she said it, like, she felt alone, like, when she was convicted the first time, and she couldn't speak to her parents. And you know, her parents brought her sisters to Italy to watch the case, like, basically thinking like, we're taking our other daughter home tonight. Like, it just states how it was like extremely heartbreaking. And You know, her and Raphael did break up during their time in prison. They remained friends, and obviously in the clip that I showed, you can tell that like they still have a relationship together, platonically as friends. Today she speaks out against being falsely convicted and how the justice system works, and she has been back to Italy since everything. She said that going back overwhelmed her, but she said it was like they invited her there to speak against the system. She is married to her longtime boyfriend Christopher Robinson, and their marriage, or their wedding, it was like an ET or something proposal, and their wedding was a Renaissance Star Wars themed, and she said like she made escape room puzzles for the wedding. Like that's what they set up their wedding, and she just seemed very overwhelmed, speaking very happily on this. That is the case. I feel like the whole case, like it became a thing about Amanda, and I feel like it's always stated like it should have been about Meredith. It shouldn't have been about Raphael and Amanda and their relationship and this other guy coming in, like this sex ring gone wrong. It should have been about Meredith. It should have been about finding her justice, which I do think it was served with Rudy Giudice being arrested. And I know her mother, at least in the documentary, I'm not sure if she's spoken out since, has said like she believes that Amanda and Raphael were involved, and once they were convicted and unconvicted, and you know, twice, like she was like they were convicted guilty twice for a reason. I understand where she's coming from. I think, you know, if I had kids, I would say the same thing. Like if they were involved even in the slightest, I would want them to face justice. But that is the case. Again, we remember Meredith. She was 21. She was too young, and it was a gruesome murder, and it's just never fun. But I feel as though Amanda deserved to be heard and to have her voice out there, and I think that I side with the side that she is innocent. And again, I want to point out, I think in the documentary, she said that like either I am this crazy, like manipulative sociopath who feels nothing and I did this, or I am a nobody, just like, or she said I am a person like you watching this who was wrongly convicted, was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Either I'm a psychopath in sheep's clothing, or I am you.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my makeup. I'll leave everything linked. I use e.l.f. products and I use Maybelline, and that's about it. But I will see you guys in the next video. If you want something different, please let me know. If you want to give me a name recommendation for this series, I would extremely be appreciative. I would appreciate it if you help me out with this, please. Thank you guys so much once again. I'm really excited to continue making more content because I have more time on my hands, and I will see you guys in the next video. Follow my social medias as well if you want more from me. I plan to make more TikToks and things like that, so go take a look on that, and I'll see you guys. Bye. Thank you for watching.